Hello and welcome to a very, very special episode of the Totally Indian Football Show. I'm your host, Siju, and the reason why I'm saying it's a special episode because today, the day you're listening to this episode, it is the Women's Day. And I didn't want to do a one off thing. I know how this one day comes and we want to celebrate it at the international level, national level. But I want to take this moment because it also falls on the day of our releases. So, hence, I took this opportunity to bring in two very special people and one of which I'm having like a personal fan moment right now here because I've seen her play, heard so many stories about her from my fellow journalist friends and so many of them out there. But this is the first time I'm getting to speak to her, and I'm so privileged to have her on my show. My guests are Bala Devi, India international, played for India, played for many clubs. She was also playing for Rangers until recently, and today she joins and represents Odisha FC women's team. And we also have Mr. Randeep Baruah, I think, who can probably take a pat on his back for getting this done. And also getting both of you guys on my show. So, a warm welcome. Bala Devi, स्वागत है द टोटली इंडियन फुटबॉल शो पर.
थैंक यू सो मच।
तो पहली बात, हमारे जो सुन रहे हैं सभी लिसनर्स को, अगले 10-15 मिनट तक मैं हिंदी में बात करूंगी और मेरा हिंदी ज़्यादा जज मत करना. तो हम बस कंफर्टेबल करना चाहते हैं विद बाला ऑल्सो, ट्राइंग टू वी ट्राइंग टू मेक हर कंफर्टेबल, सो वेयर शी इज़ कंफर्टेबल इन, वी बोथ आर लर्निंग. आई थिंक हर लैंग्वेज इज़ बेस्ट ऑन द फील्ड ऑफ कोर्स, सो इट रियली डजंट मैटर हाउ एफिशिएंट वी स्पीक हियर एट दिस पॉइंट. पहली तो बाला, आपका जो अंटिल रिसेंटली आप रेंजर्स एफसी के लिए खेल रहे थे, बहुत सारा गेम टाइम मिला वहाँ पे आपको, गोल्स भी स्कोर किए. आई थिंक यू मेड अस रियली प्राउड ओवर देयर एज फैंस, एज इंडियंस इन जनरल. तो अगर आप शुरुआत करेंगे ऑफ शेयरिंग कैसा था आपका एक्सपीरियंस, एंड इवन बिफोर दैट जब आपको ये न्यूज़ मिला कि आप रेंजर्स के लिए खेलने वाली है, तो तभी आपके मन में क्या चल रहा था बिफोर गोइंग टू रेंजर्स?
सो एक्सपीरियंस वाज सो फार, कभी हमने इंडिया में ये एक्सपीरियंस नहीं मिला था क्योंकि उनका जो लाइक प्रोफेशनल बहुत हाई रहता है वहाँ पे कि ऑफ द फिन एंड आउट द फिन इट्स वेरी हाई प्रोफेशनल. सो आप जो भी कर रहा है कर सकते हैं बट इन द फील्ड आपको 100% देना है. सो ये चीज मैं वहां से एक्सपीरियंस लिया है. तो ये सबसे बेस्ट पार्ट है मेरे लिए इन एक प्लेयर के लिए कितना इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आगे इन फ्यूचर के लिए फिटनेस लेवल से लेके अपने आप को कितना ध्यान में रखना है, वो सबसे बेस्ट पार्ट है मेरे लिए. और एवरी वीक वहां पे स्क्वाटिंग करते हैं. सो इट्स नॉट इजी, वहां पे खेलने के लिए इतना इजी नहीं है. तो हम एवरी डे हम लोग मेहनत करना पड़ता है. तो बहुत सारे मैंने वहां पे मेहनत किया है, मैंने स्कोर भी किया है और एसिस्ट भी किया है. बट रेंजर्स जाने से पहले मुझे एक ऐसा कुछ मोमेंट था कि कोई कुछ बोल रहे कि बाला का कैरियर खत्म हो गया, बाला भी खेल नहीं पाएंगे, ऐसा कुछ हो रहा था. बट जब मैं फटाफट से मेरा एजेंट, मेरा जो प्रेजेंटेशन मैंने बात किया कि अरे मुझे खेलना है बाहर, एक बार तो मुझे खेलना है, ऐसा हम 1 सेकेंड 2 सेकेंड में हमने ऐसा बात हुआ. 5 मिनट के अंदर में उसने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट किया. इतना बड़ा क्लब मुझे वहां पे ट्रेनिंग के लिए और वहां पे खेलने के लिए, वहां पे मुझे एक्सपोजर करने के लिए मुझे अपॉर्चुनिटी उन्होंने दिया है. तो वो सबसे बड़ी बात है. बट वहां से यस ओके आ जाओ ऐसा उन्होंने कहा है. देन उन्होंने जस्ट मुझे 10 डेज के लिए वहां पे दिया है, 10 डेज ट्रेनिंग के लिए, सिलेक्शन के लिए, जो भी हो वहां पे करने के लिए. एक प्लेयर के लिए 10 डेज बहुत कम रहता है. एक प्लेयर तो उन लोगों का ट्रेनिंग स्टाइल उनका अलग होता है, स्टाइल ऑफ प्ले अलग होता है, हमारे इंडिया का स्टाइल ऑफ प्ले अलग होता है. सो थोड़ा सा मैं नर्वस में थी जब मैं वहां पे रेंजर्स में गए थे. तो खाली मेरा दिमाग में आएगा कि मुझे जो जहाँ मैं बचपन से मैं सीखे आई हूँ वही दिखाना है, उसके अलावा मैं ऑप्शन नहीं है. बस मुझे सिलेक्शन होके ही जाना है. तो जैसा जैसा ट्रेनिंग स्टार्टिंग किया था तो मुझे अच्छा, इतना अच्छा मुझे कॉन्फिडेंस मिला है कि मैं तो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा फुटबॉल में ज़्यादा मतलब टच में ज़्यादा मुझे पसंद करती हूँ। तो वहाँ पे भी ऐसा हुआ था स्टार्टिंग में, तो मुझे अच्छा ईज़ी लग रहा था। देन मुझे 3 दिन के बाद एक मैच खिलाया था, तो मैच में भी मैंने स्कोर किया था। एक्चुअली 3 स्कोर किया था, 2 असिस्ट किया था। ऐसा करके हमने 10 डेज़ ट्रेनिंग करने वाली थी, 10 डेज़ वहाँ पे करने वाले थे, बट उन्होंने ऑफर जस्ट 5 डेज़, 6 डेज़ में मुझे छोटा करके मुझे ये सब किया था। बट आफ्टर दैट मैं मणिपुर आ गया। फिर क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा वो सब, और वीजा वो सब सोचना पड़ा। फिर वहां से कॉल आया कि सिलेक्शन हो गया है, 12 मंथ्स का कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दिया जाए। तो ये सुन के मुझे बिलीव नहीं हो रहा था कि इतना लंबा एक प्रोफेशनल जगह पे इतना लंबा दिया हुआ है, तो ये बहुत बड़ी बात है। तो मैं बहुत खुशी थी, और मेरा घर वालों बहुत खुशी था। फिर घर वालों मतलब वो खुशी अलग रख दिया जाता है। सो मेरा फादर जब खुशी के टाइम में बोले कि जस्ट तुम सिलेक्शन हुआ है, तुमको दिखाना बहुत बाकी है, ऐसा पापा मुझे काउंट मतलब कूल डाउन कर रही थी। तो ऐसा हम लोग साथ में कुछ मिठाई वगैरह कुछ खा के हम लोग एंजॉय कर रहे थे टीम के साथ, फैमिली के
जी,
साथ।
बिल्कुल, आई थिंक इट वाज़ नॉट जस्ट आपका खुद का फैमिली, आई थिंक द होल ऑफ इंडियन फुटबॉल फैमिली जो भी वुमेन्स फुटबॉल फ़ॉलो करते और करते आए और आपके पर्सनली आपके करियर को फ़ॉलो करते आए, दिस वाज़ अ वेरी बिग न्यूज़ फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस टू सेलिब्रेट इन अ बिग मोमेंट। और आपके खुद के टैलेंट पर आपको सिलेक्ट किया ना आपने, मतलब आप गए वहाँ पे, स्पेंड किया, जो भी चैलेंजेस था आपने उसको सब लेके गोल्स मारे, असिस्ट किए, यू लिटरली यू वर शाइनिंग द ब्राइटेस्ट वहाँ पे।
चैलेंजिंग बहुत था कि क्योंकि वहां पे टेम्परेचर 0% टेम्परेचर रहते वहां पे, इतना ठंडा में खेलना बहुत मुश्किल है। उसके साथ साथ उनका ट्रेनिंग कैसा करता है, उनका स्टाइल ऑफ प्ले कैसा है, मुझे बिल्कुल भी आइडिया नहीं। जैसे हम लोग यूट्यूब में थोड़ा देखता है, बस उतना ही।
और जब आप गए थे वहाँ पे और जब आपका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट शुरू हुआ, आई एम श्योर जब आपको ये साइनिंग का न्यूज़ भी आया, डिड एनी ऑफ द इंडियन प्लेयर्स जो भी आपकी टीममेट रह चुके हैं इंडिया में, द यंग प्लेयर्स, आपसे बातचीत हो रहा था कि उन्होंने बोला कि दीदी, आई मीन द जूनियर प्लेयर्स ऑल्सो जिसके साथ आपने खेले हैं इंडियन टीम के लिए, वो टच में थे, पूछ रहे थे कि कैसा था, कैसा चल रहा है, हमें भी क्या सीखने को मिलेगा, ऐसा कुछ बातचीत हुआ जब आप रेंजर्स के लिए खेल रहे थे?
यस, काफी बच्चों उन लोगों को बहुत इंटरेस्ट हुआ है, और ये मेरा साथ इंटरेस्ट में है। उड़ीसा से भी मतलब प्लेयर्स जो इंटरनेशनल प्लेयर है मेरे साथ भी बात होते हैं। अभी रिसेंट मनीषा कैलान भी गई है, तो हम साथ में बात करते कि मैं बोला उनको कि हम लोग खेल सकता है बॉर्डर, या हम लोग आउट ऑफ कंट्री ऑल्सो हम खेल सकते हैं। हमारे पास क्वालिटी है, वे क्वालिटी, हमारे पास स्किल है, खाली हमको और अपने आप को डेवलप करना है कि हम कहाँ तक पहुंचना है, और कैसे अपने आप को फिटनेस रखना है, वही हमको ध्यान रखना है। उसके अलावा हम लोग बहुत हम खेल सकते हैं, वही उन लोगों को एडवाइस किया है। तो अभी उसके बाद अभी मनीषा केलान गया है, अभी रिसेंट अच्छे से वहां पे खेल रही है।
जी, बिल्कुल। और अनफॉर्चुनेटली आपको फिर एक इंजरी हुआ,
हम्म,
राइट? इसलिए आपको फिर वापस आना पड़ा। तो वो एक फ़ेज़ के बारे में
हम्म।
आप कैसे आप शेयर कर पाओगे कि कैसा था वो फ़ेज़? बिकॉज़ स्टार्टिंग में सब अच्छा चल रहा था एंड देन अनफॉर्चुनेटली जब इंजरी आया आपको वापस आना पड़ा एंड देन द होल रिकवरी प्रोसेस, तब भी आपके मन में क्या चल रहा था?
यस, दैट डे मेरा एक मैच था, 11 में थी मैं। तो मुझे मेरा पास आके कोच बोल रही थी कि बाला, ये मैच के बाद तुम्हारा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्सटेंड का हम बात करेंगे, अच्छे से खेलो। वो विश दिया था एक्चुअली मेरे को। तो फिर आफ्टर 15 मिनट्स के बाद मुझे इंजरी हो गया था। तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि जो अभी इंजरी है कितना पेन है कितना पेन नहीं है, मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा था। जब मैं बाहर निकली थी तब पता चला कि मेरा जो पेन है बहुत सीरियस है। जब मैं फील्ड पे गिरी थी तभी भी मुझे मतलब खेलने का मन था, मैं खड़ी हुई थी, किसी को नहीं दिखाया था कि मैं इतना चोट पहुंची हूँ, इतना इंजरी हो गया हूँ। बस मुझे ध्यान में था कि मुझे खेलना है, मैं उठा था, बट वो नहीं हो पाया। बट गेम के बाद कोच मुझे बता रहे कि जब तुम गिरी थी इतना नहीं लग रहा था, तुम मतलब मैं खेलूंगी ऐसा बोल रहा था, बट आफ्टर तुम्हारी इंजरी बहुत ज्यादा है ये। तो उन्होंने तारीफ किया कि बहुत मतलब तुमने मतलब वो उसको किसी को नहीं दिखाया, ऐसा करके तारीफ किया है। बट उस टाइम मुझे बहुत गलती फील हो रहा था कि एक तो और एक्सटेंड करने का चांस था मेरा वहां पे खेलने के लिए, बट वो खेल नहीं पाया। बट एज ए प्लेयर्स इंजुरी तो होता ही है, तो वही मेरा दिमाग में हो गया कि हाँ चलो हो गया तो हो गया, मुझे कुछ कर नहीं सकता है। बट रेंजर्स ने मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छा किया है कि 6 मंथ्स और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्सटेंड किया है मेरे लिए।
ओके, ग्रेट। आई थिंक रणदीप सर बहुत ही देर से अभी 10-15 मिनट से शांत बैठे, तो मैं अभी उनके पास सवाल जवाब पूछूंगी। तो मिस्टर रणदीप बरुआ, वेलकम टू द शो। एंड what I want to ask you is, when did you find that? I'm sure you had your eyes and ears open when you got to know that Bala is here. So, when was that whole journey? If you can tell us, probably take us through with the time where even before you approached her and asked her to join the team, and then finally the day arrived where it was confirmation and you broke the big news. So, if you can tell us the whole journey of getting Bala on to your side, how did that happen?
Thank you, Siju, first of all, for having me here. And I think, so quite honestly, I was in touch with Anuj. I've known Anuj for many, many years now. And I was in touch with him, just, inquiring about Bala and how she's coping with her injury, playing in Manipur, how's everything with her. And I was basically in touch with him over a period of time to, know where she is, what her plans are, because for Bala, I had a very specific plan in my mind. Maybe later when we are on the show, we'll talk a little more extensively about that. But I think there came a time when he said that she's open to staying back in India because there was some issues with her going back abroad again. And I went straight to Rohan and I said, listen, this is it. I mean, come on, we can't not have this opportunity of getting Bala. And to be very, very fair, my entire management, Rohan, Raj, Avik, everyone, we just got onto it, and I think we spoke with Bala and with Anuj. I gave her a complete background as to what the entire Odisha FC Women's Team project is, and somewhere I believe we struck a chord in saying, look, we are not chasing perfection as much as we are chasing excellence, and it starts right now, and it starts right here. I think a lot of things fell into place after which she came aboard, and we actually had to keep it under wraps for a couple of weeks because she needed to get certain permissions for her to join us. But eventually, we just had to let it out because word was beginning to spread, considering the team that we've been building over the past few months. But when you have someone like Bala with you, it's not only is it very difficult to hide that from the general populace, but it's also something you really want to shout out from the rooftops. So when we did make the announcement, it was pretty big because we had Bala across the men's and women's team handles, social media handles. We were more than like excited to have her with us, but we knew she had a national team commitments. So when she did come down and join us, now she's working on herself, on her fitness and everything, and now she's spending more time with the players. That is exactly the Bala that I wanted for the club, and I think it's been a privilege. I've worked with Bala in the past, actually. Back in 2017, I did a project for UNICEF, and because I have I have good relations with the kind folk at AIFF, I was doing a sort of exhibition match for the tea estate girls back in Dibrugarh in Assam. And I requested AIFF if they could send some of the women's team players to sort of participate in that. So Bala was amongst them. The others were Bem Bem and Kamla and Dalima. So, it was a really all star affair. But ever since then, I met her very briefly at that point of time because I was organizing the whole thing. It was a bit of a mess, but it was really nice to see her again, and now for her to be with all the girls here. It really is a great feeling.
Yeah, I think coming back to Bala here now, जब आपके पास ये ऑफर आया और आपको पता चला कि ओडिशा एफसी आपको साइन करना चाहती है, तभी आपका क्या रिस्पॉन्स था? क्योंकि ये टीम एक नया टीम है, लास्ट ईयर लॉन्च हुआ था एंड लॉन्च होते ही उन्होंने अभी एक टाइटल भी जीत लिया है फ्रॉम द स्टेट इटसेल्फ। और लेकिन जब बिकॉज नाउ यू आर बैक फ्रॉम रेंजर्स और आपको मतलब तकलीफ हो रहा है बिकॉज आपको कंटिन्यू नहीं कर पाई आप, फिर इंजरी रिकवरी पीरियड चल रहा है, लेकिन जब ये अपॉर्चुनिटी आया तभी कैसा था आपका रिस्पॉन्स? और क्या था वो एक चीज़ जो आपको लगा कि नहीं ये टीम सही है मेरे लिए और मैं इनके लिए खेलना चाहती हूँ?
एक्चुअली रणदीप सर के साथ में मैक्सिमम 40 मिनट्स हमने बात किया है। अभी भी मैं याद हूँ, रणदीप सर मुझे कॉल किया था तो उड़ीसा एफसी का जो फैसिलिटीज मुझे बता रहे थे और उड़ीसा का गवर्नमेंट का सपोर्ट, वो सब मुझे समझा रहे थे, तो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। और एक चीज सबसे अच्छा है कि आईएसएल या अभी जितना 12 टीम्स क्वालिफाई है, अभी तक उन्होंने टीम बनाया नहीं है, खाली उड़ीसा उड़ीसा एफसी का टीम बनाया है और ईस्ट बंगाल का बनाया है। तो मुझे सबसे अच्छा वही लगा, ताकि आगे जाके हमारा वुमेन्स फुटबॉल को आगे जा सकता है। सो वो सबसे अच्छा लगा मुझे। और यहाँ का जो फैसिलिटी है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा कि द मेंस टीम आल्सो यूजिंग द सेम ग्राउंड, वुमेन्स भी यूज करे, वो सबसे बेस्ट था मेरे लिए। तो ग्राउंड सबसे अच्छा लगा, इसलिए मैंने भी मतलब यस, वुमेन्स फुटबॉल को हमारे लिए कुछ कर रही है, अभी कर रही है ऐसा करके। और सेम कैफेटेरिया, सेम रेस्टोरेंट में हम लोग खाने खाने खा रहे हैं मेंस के साथ, मतलब ये चीज डिवाइड नहीं करे, मेंस एंड वुमेन्स एक साथ आगे जाने के लिए कोशिश करे, तो सबसे बेस्ट मुझे लग रहा था। रणदीप सर की बात करने से पहले हम लोग मैं स्पेन में गए थे। स्पेन कुछ एक टीम, दो टीम मुझे ऑफर दे रहे थे, फिर भी मैंने इंडिया में मतलब उड़ीसा में चूज किया है कि हम आगे मतलब मैं कम से कम कुछ सालों तक मैं खेल सकूंगी। उसके बेस में इंडिया में मुझे क्या किया, वो भी मेरा बहुत गोल था। जितना भी यंग प्लेयर है उनको मोटिवेशन करना, इंस्पायर करना, वो भी मेरे लिए एक मकसद था। तो मैंने सोचा हाँ, 3 साल, 2 साल में बाहर, मैं यूके में थी स्कॉटलैंड रेंजर्स में, 1 साल मुझे रिकवरी में, इंजरी रिकवरी में लग गया था, तो 3 साल मैंने इंडिया में रिप्रेजेंट नहीं किया। तो मैंने सोचा चलो, अच्छा अपॉर्चुनिटी है, इंडिया को भी आगे लेके जा सकता है और हमारा जो उड़ीसा एफसी को भी आगे ले सकता है। और उड़ीसा स्पोर्ट्स में बहुत आगे जा रहे हैं। तो मैंने सोचा चलो, हम कुछ ना कुछ तो कर पाएंगे इन फ्यूचर के लिए, ऐसा सोच के मैंने उड़ीसा एफसी को गेस्ट किया।
जी, और अभी तो आपका मतलब स्कोर तो और भी बुलंद हो गया है आपके आने से। पहले भी और बुलंद था, लेकिन आई थिंक यू एडेड मच मोर, नॉट जस्ट द लाइमलाइट बट वो परफॉर्मेंस भी ऑन द फील्ड हमें दिखेगा एट द हाईएस्ट लेवल। तो बिकॉज एज अ कोच क्रिस्पिन भी बहुत ही एक्सपीरियंस्ड है, इसके पहले सेदू एफसी में थे, तो आई एम श्योर यू नो इट्स अ वेल बिल्ड टीम। और फाइनली अगर आपको, बिफोर आई लेट यू गो बाला, फैंस को आप क्या कहना चाहोगे, जो ओडिशा एफसी फैंस है और जो इंडियन फुटबॉल फैंस है, क्या कहना चाहोगे? और ऑल्सो बिकॉज दिस इज़ अ फ्लेवर एंड वी स्पीकिंग अबाउट मोर women wanting to play and it's a women's day occasion, और ये साल फीफा विमेंस वर्ल्ड कप भी होने वाला है बहुत ही जल्द ऑस्ट्रेलिया और न्यूजीलैंड में। तो हमें दिख रहा है चेंजेस बहुत बाकी, आई मीन देखना बाकी है इंडियन फुटबॉल में विद रिगार्ड्स टू विमेंस फुटबॉल। बट अगर आप एक मैसेज वहाँ पे अगर शेयर करना चाहोगे, वो मैसेज क्या होगा?
जी, हम लोग बहुत मेहनत कर रही है, सुबह शाम हम लोग, थोड़ा सा चोट लगने से भी हम लोग फील्ड पे उतर रही है। वो सब अपना देश के लिए कर रहे हैं और अपना कंट्री के लिए कर रहे हैं, अपना करियर के लिए कर रहे हैं और अब सभी के लिए कर रहे हैं। तो आप लोग जब स्टेडियम में आओगे ना, हमारा और ज्यादा मोटिवेशन हो जाता है। तो प्लीज स्टेडियम में आइए और हम लोग को चीयर कीजिए, हम लोग को मोटिवेशन कीजिए, खाली उतना ही हम लोग चाहिए और कुछ नहीं चाहिए। स्टेडियम में आके हम लोग के लिए तालियां बजाइए, बस उतना ही चाहिए।
Well, I'll need a few seconds before I, kind of continue my conversation with Mr. Randeep Baruah because that was overwhelming. Not just because I was speaking another language, but also because the first time I was talking to be honest, yes, it was the very first time I was talking to a women's team player. It was my first interview and a conversation with on record, to be honest. So, coming to you, Randeep Baruah, I think you must be thinking, oh, I am coming as just a person there, but my main aim was to get Bala, but not the case. I treated both of you all equally. Like I was saying, for me, getting Bala was a cherry on the cake, but I wanted you to be very much part of the show because it was a very interesting take on having Odisha FC women's team. I don't think there are any other ISL teams that have done that. So last year you guys launched and you've also won a trophy playing. You won the Odisha Women's League. So tell us about the entire. I'm sure you must have gone through a lot of back and forth before launching this project. It's not easy. It's very easy for all of us to sit behind and say, why aren't you starting a women's team? Why aren't the teams that already exist start? But how did the whole process go about? And then what was that final thing saying that, no, this is it. We have to start and we are going ahead with this project?
I was basically brought in to start the women's team and look after the academy both. The women's team, I could not start immediately after I came. I joined in November 21. And it took me a while to just get used to things in women's football in Odisha, especially. So I took a bit of time to understand the women's football landscape more extensively. I thankfully the entire IWL was here in Bhubaneswar last year, so I was able to watch a bunch of matches. I was able to look at a lot of players, look at a lot of coaches and stuff. So it helped me put my plan together, and I created a complete plan around this entire project, which I then took to my management. We did go back and forth on a lot of things. There were some straightforward, clear ideas that we had about having a very core Oria players and a young team, which is then enhanced with a lot of experience from experienced players and whether they're from Odisha or from outside. So the first thing that we really started with was the coach, because I think that's the most important aspect of building your team. And we narrowed down on a couple of coaches, but I think eventually we decided to go on with Crispin simply because he had the experience of working with the Odisha state team players, took them to the semifinals also of the previous senior nationals. A lot of the players already knew of him, some of them who didn't wanted to work with him, and it was quite an interesting take on his part to say, I am invested in women's football. Normally, you don't really get coaches who will invest themselves into women's football, but he had a plan, and it sort of worked out well. Everything started, falling into place, and then I actually suffered an injury. I tore my Achilles last summer, just right after the IWL ended. So I was pretty much in bed for almost 2 months. And despite that, we signed Crispin pretty much all over phone calls and, emails and, these video calls and stuff. Then we signed a bunch of players. We signed Pyari, which was the most important thing that we needed to do because we wanted to have the best Oria players play for Orissa FC. We signed Julie, we signed Satya, we signed Jasoda. So, we started putting the core Oria team together and we started getting in young talent from outside like Arifa and Shreya, Grace, Sonali. We wanted these players to come together and, give a more worldly feel, if you like. And we still hadn't started until almost about October, by which time our squad was almost ready. So by October, November, we had the facilities, and that's where the government came in, and they were really really helpful in giving us these facilities, these grounds to practice on and play on. The rest of it, of course, the club was started investing very heavily on the infrastructure, because that was the one thing that, right at the start of this project, I made it very clear that we need to have proper infrastructure, safe, secure, and they took it to another level and said, it's got to be on par with the men's. Simple as that. So they live in the same apartments or similar apartments as the boys do. They play, they train on the same grounds. They share the same dining mess and the food menus and that. So there's hardly any difference between both at the moment in terms of the infrastructure that's being provided to them. And then they have, we tied up with Avinav with the targeting performance, the HPC. So they have an entire HPC experience to enhance themselves both physically and mentally. They've had nutrition sessions very recently. Before that, they had psychology sessions with doctors. So, and first it starts the group, then it's more specified onto each of them, and it's year one. So we have, this is right now, we need to put our foundation together, make it strong, and then build from here going into the future. Winning the OWL was important for us because we need to be in the IWL, not just as an ISL club, but as somebody with the kind of aspirations that we have to be consistently playing at the Asian level. We needed to start right away, and I'm glad that we sort of made it. But again, the test will be IWL, of course. It's a different league. It's going to be different competition. We're coming together pretty well. We have bought smartly, if you like, and there is a reason why every player is an Odisha FC women's team player. This is just the start. Like I said, it's the first year. Sure, there will be changes at the end of the season, and there will be a lot of things that we will need to put together and fix and improve on. But the foundation, laying the foundation, was the more important part. Which you did mention that we're the only ISL club. Actually, Kerala Blasters also started IWL team, or rather, they had the aspirations to, but then they didn't qualify into the IWL last year. And other than that, there's East Bengal. But FC Goa has an under 17 team. They have a juniors team, which is also great because they're obviously looking to build into the future using that group of players, which is very commendable. But yes, if we do need to talk about women's football, if we do need to support women's football, we have to start with providing the best infrastructure to these players to start with, to start believing that they can and aspire to be professional players.
Yeah, I think the onus of putting you guys as one of the only probably teams because definitely making all the right noises on top at the top level, right? Yes, there are teams who've done at the bottom also, not forgetting what they've done, but and at a scale that you guys are trying to, definitely trying to push or the other teams. But coming back over here, we kind of put. Do you see an added pressure for you guys because you're also an ISL men's team, right? As to kind of try and you have that image of yours, or would you like to consider this to be a completely different entity because then you have the freedom to be amongst the other teams who are just standalone women's team. You know what I'm trying to say? Because the pressure on already existing teams with regards to the men's team, it also becomes an added pressure for them while they are like, okay, we're already doing a lot, do we still need to do a women's team? What if I don't, or what if we don't have that capacity to do, but because everybody else is doing, should we jump into it? Because as rightly as you mentioned, a point that I'm taking from what you mentioned is also providing that safe environment, right? It's very easy, once again I'm saying it's very easy for us to sit in here and say why are the teams not starting women's team. It's not easy as the primary important factor even bringing in before the infra is getting in bringing a safe environment, right? So yeah, coming back to the point I was making, how would you like to see or people like to view Odisha women's team as opposed to, should we see it as a two completely different projects, which should be the case, but I'm saying, does the added ISL image add as a pressure for you guys?
I think we're just two arms of the same body. But having said that, we're two very different arms. And the men's team has its own pressures. Us, we have our own pressures, and we have to deal with our own pressures our way. We're not competing at the same level and within the same ecosystem that they are. Our ecosystem, or if I may, quite bluntly say, the lack of it is causes us more challenges and problems to sort of jump into a project as massive and important, if you like, as women's football. But again, this comes from the ownership, this comes from the management, that this is something that was always on the cards. As a club, we don't just simply aspire to be swiveling around in mediocrity throughout. No, we want to elevate ourselves as well as a club, and that will happen over time with the men's team because we started afresh with the women's team. We want to sort of lead the way, if I might, without sounding pompous at all. I don't mean to sound pompous at all, so forgive me if I do. All I'm saying or trying to say is that we want to create those benchmarks for others to follow, and that ways we can have a collective ecosystem that feeds into the national team and stuff like that. Right now, Siju, you and I know very well there is absolutely nothing for women's club football in India. Nothing. The IWL is almost like a tick box tournament that you've got to have at the end of the season. Yeah, yeah, we did it. But no, there are clubs, and with due respect, Setu, Gokulam, Kickstart, Hops, there are so many clubs investing in women's football. There are so many women's footballers across the country. In the Northeast last year, they did a Northeast tournament. They gave an opportunity to the girls to come out and play. Something as basic as that is what girls want. I remember asking one of my players, I'm sorry, you know that we pay all our players as well, right? And we pay them almost like on a not almost, we pay them on a monthly basis. It's like a salary, and they have 2-year contracts. Some of them, of course, work on loan from their agencies with us. They go back and then they come, whatever. But I said, I can't pay you this much. Is that all right? She's like, sir, I don't want to play. I pay. I want to play. I want a ground to play on. Something as basic as that, if we can give to them, they're happy. And then you see that girl in 5 months, she's improved. She's going to take the league by storm. I know that. And that is what we want to do. We want these girls to have proper aspirations of, pursuing professional football. But that ecosystem has to help us too. We have to come together at some point and say, right, speak to the federation, speak to those in charge and say, we need a proper calendar. Fix that for us. That means we can even plan better. No? We can also plan on our investments better. Otherwise, sometimes you're just trying to learn and pick things up from the men's team and do it this way. But, you know, going back to your question again, we are two separate entities, even though we belong to the same organization. And our ambitions might be the same, but here we are, I think, more or less at an advantage rather than the boys to get to our goals a little quicker if we can, because women's football is still in that developmental stage. It's still nascent, it's still growing. But when you have big dreams, big aspirations, and you go for it right from the start, I think you have a better chance of getting there quicker and smarter. You learn quicker, at least, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and then coming to the point of regarding Bala, I remember I was trying to come back to this point where you mentioned that you had something in mind with regards to how you want to fit her into this larger project of not just a one off thing, but in the larger vision of taking Odisha women's team ahead. So, if you could probably shed more light about what was going on also in your mind when you wanted Bala on the team.
If you look at our team, as strong and good a team as it is full of youngsters. Kyari herself is a youngster. She's probably the most high profile name up other than a few of the others. Sweetie is very young, but she is a leader. Trust me, she is one of the best players, best minds I've had the privilege of working with, in football. And I've been working in football for 15 years, so I can tell you, she's amazing. She will do very well in life. But all these girls, they needed a mentor. They needed somebody who has seen it and been there, done that, worked hard, come through numerous challenges, and made it. For us, having a figure like that at the club was very, very important. And the only person that I could think of was Bala. Now, for me, it was almost like, it's a little difficult to get someone like Bala because she should be playing internationally, very honestly. But now that she's chosen to be here, it is in our best interest, and some ways she definitely sees in hers too, to be aligned together to make that happen. Now, when we had these girls, young girls playing together, there was a lot of fun, there was a lot of learning, everything was great. But now there's an added element of seriousness in understanding what aspiration is. For them, sometimes, Jasoda asked me, sir, is there an India under 23 team? I was like, no, you don't need an under 23 team. You give yourself a couple of months, you'll be in the national team yourself. You're good enough to be there. I know she's better than a lot of the other players that I see there, for sure. But we don't have the ecosystems in place right now to ensure that the players get their rightful look in to be at that stage. For someone like Bala, it's important for her to bring this little group of ours together and educate them about becoming professional players. Somebody who can mentor them, somebody who can tell Pyari, who's recovering from an injury, to say, calm down. You need to take your time. You need to be patient because she's been through it herself. So, there is a lot of rashness. There's a lot of young blood rushing through all these girls because now they're getting this platform and this opportunity to showcase themselves as athletes, as players, so that we start looking at them seriously. And you need someone to keep them at a check. Crispin and I can do that at a certain level. Gayatri can definitely do it better than us, having been an India international herself. But somebody like Bala, whom everybody looks up to, including Pyari. So that it was very important for us to bring her in as that role model, and you can't have a better role model, Siju. You and I know that. She is a wonderful person. She's a very level-headed person. She has a lot of football knowledge and experience, and I'm sure this too is going to translate into our efforts to give us a little bit more going into her future as well. In terms of as a club, beyond her playing days, we want to keep her and have her associated with the club for as long as possible, and we will find our avenues for that. So yeah, so that is what the whole idea and plan about having Bala there as a personality. To she was more than a goal scorer for us. She had to be that personality in the dressing room that everybody looks up to and is mentored towards achieving greatness. That was the idea.
Well, I think brilliantly put out there also for fact that you guys you already mentioned about it about having the Sabino Bindra, the team from there with regards to health and well-being partners. So giving that holistic approach over there is definitely appreciated, and I think that's more than needed, which is the need of the hour. I think the added thing. But finally, to ask you, what is the immediate vision that you have, or the goal that you have set for the team, and the long term vision also, if we could probably share that.
See, right now, as soon as we get the dates and the venues, we have the dates. They just need to be, verified without sticking in a national championship in the middle of international friendly and then the IWL. Half our team is there. Practically, in all of Gokulam and Setu's teams are with the other national teams. you know, we just need some time with the players. Otherwise, what are we working towards? We are investing crores in this project, not just us, the others as well, but us, because, apart from the players, it's also uh, this entire system that we are putting together for Odisha women's football. So, of course, the first objective right now is to do our very best in the IWL. We have a good team. We have a good set of players. I think we have a very shrewd and good manager, a coach who can get the best out of the players. And the first objective would be to pass that hurdle next and move on to the Asian circuit. And as the system grows, to solidify our position in the country and across Asia. I don't think there's no point in dreaming small. I've never believed in dreaming small. And I know our management and our ownership have the ambitions for the women's team to take it to a great height. And we have the benevolence of the government. We have FAO with us who help us out on a lot of things. We have other agencies like Odisha Police and Railways. So we have this little collaborative ecosystem amongst ourselves in Odisha to make sure that we are all collectively a success. And I think in seeing the club's success, in seeing Odisha FC women's success, immediate, will always keep that benchmark that, look, we are winners, we are champions. And once that mentality is in your mind and you're coming here to play, wherever you are from or whenever you do come, you always play with the mindset of wanting to be champions. And that is the mentality that I want to inculcate amongst every person that's working in this organization, especially the women's team.
Yeah, I don't think this, particularly if you have, because we have this day called the International Women's Day. If I had to say, have I done justice to that particular day? I don't think I could have done it better. With regards to, because this episode is going to explode. I hope so, not because I have done it, but because of the wealth of knowledge that you brought in. Also, thank you so much for taking us through the journey, for giving us a glimpse and insight into what you guys are working out there. And I hope a lot of that is implemented. And, because that's something that we don't tend to see, because a lot of people talk, just like I love talking, right? A lot of us can talk, but when it comes to doing, is what we kind of tend to not see the action happening. But as you mentioned, I think you have that collective support down there. So hopefully, I really hope that whatever best wishes straight from the heart and from our show, from all of us at Humans of Indian Football. Thank you so much, Randeep Barua, for making this happen, not just for getting yourself, but also making happen getting Bala on the show as well, and for giving me this time, an amazing insight. Yes, we do hope that you can one day come down there and then do some more in depth feature. But until then, thank you and best wishes. And you may not be a woman, but I think the work that you have been doing, and all the men out there, including Crispin and all of them, and various other guys, in fact, many men out there toiling it out to make sure women's football is out there. So happy Women's Day to all of them and to you as well.
And to you, and to you, and to everyone, all your listeners, all your all your fans and your followers. It's a Women's Day is every day. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just one day that we decide to pick out and say, okay, today is AFC Women's Football Day. But having said that, it's a day to celebrate, and every day is there to celebrate women, their greatness, their successes, their sometimes their challenges, and they're suffering too, because from that the real warriors emerge. And this team and every other girl out there wanting to play football in this country and outside are warriors. And all we need to do, like Bala said, is get out there and support them, give them all the love they need, give them all the support they need. Tell them that, look, you're great, you're doing great, you can be greater. That just keep going, don't stop. And that's what we want to do here. That's what I want to do. And everywhere I go, wherever we go, we want the football ecosystem for women to grow in this country and across the world, because it's something really, really, it gives me a lot of pride, really, to be a part of something like this. So all the best to you too, and I hope to see you and your team in Odisha. You're always welcome. Come speak to the rest of the girls. Come meet Crispin, meet the others. It's nice here in Odisha. You're always welcome. And thank you again.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
very
think,
much.
yes, I think since that is on record, I have to now definitely make this trip
You
happen.
must.
But thank you once again, and thank you for your time. To all the lovely listeners, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you didn't, then I don't know what you are doing. You better enjoy. Please do share, and share with all your friends, whether they know women's football or not. Make this episode a must listen for all of you guys, not because on our show, but because we had the Bala Devi and also Randeep giving us an insight into what they are doing at the Odisha women's team. So thank you once again. We are the Totally Indian Football Show, available on all the audio platforms. You can listen to it on your preferred ones. So hey, what are you doing? Just listen to it, guys, and follow, share, subscribe. And a huge shout out to our lovely team at Idea Brew Studios. Thank you so much once again. This is me signing off. Bye bye.